This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations. Come for the craft beer, bourbon, whiskey, and great drinks. Stay for the conversations. Here's your host, Jonathan Green.
Do we have a fun episode for you this week? It's going to be the first of some things that we hope to see a good bit here on the Bar Conversations, and that's an expanded tasting notes. That's right, we'll be dropping an expanded tasting notes as we talk about the Entrepreneurial Spirit Fund for you this episode, but we did a full interview with SIA Scotch and the amazing program they have there that'll be dropping later this week on all of our platforms that you can find Bar Conversations. And our big conversation this week is with Crowe-Getty, vocals, guitar for the band Lord Nelson. It's a lot of fun to get their history and just his musical aspirations and just how it all came together. It's a fun chat. I hope you're also checking out all of our other fun things that we do. You can find those at hopspirits.com and on all of our social media. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get to some more fun.
It's almost time. Where did I put those? Here they are. It's time for tasting notes.
Joining us here for a tasting notes is the founder of SIA Scotch Whisky, Carin. How do you say your last name? And did I say your first name correct?
Yes, yeah, you said that right. And it's Luna-Ostaseski. It's a mouthful, don't worry.
Yeah, I was just hopeful I got the first one right, and there was a 50-50 chance on that. I appreciate you joining us for a little bit of tasting notes to talk a little bit about kind of the fun things you do there. And you want to make SIA Scotch purpose-driven as well. And you launched the Entrepreneurial Spirit Fund, which I had to double check 3 times before I said that. Why did you want to do something like this, and why was it so important to you?
Yeah. So I think it's what strikes me is from day one, people took my phone calls, right? They took my questions. They were kind enough to offer me advice, which sometimes I took, sometimes I didn't. But just the fact that they took a moment to share with me was really important. And to this day, I still take 4 or 5 calls from entrepreneurs now where I help them out. So kind of giving back, paying it forward has always been really important to me. And so from day one, I give whatever I could towards underrepresented entrepreneurs. So at first I think my first year was like $100. I was able to donate to a charity, and the second year, like 250, just slowly growing. And this past year, I'm really proud to say that we did a program for grants for minority entrepreneurs in the form of $250,000. So we were able to give away $10,000.
Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more.
Right. Intimate. So we gave $10,000 grants to 25 recipients in the markets where we operate, as well as a 6-month mentoring program. So I've been personally mentoring these entrepreneurs and really enjoying that process. The businesses were very varied. And this year, we're actually honing it in a little bit in terms of the program. We're going to concentrate our focus in the food and beverage and hospitality industry. So we can't align with any businesses that hold a liquor license, as it's a conflict of interest, but we are able to concentrate these grants for cocktails, food, glassware, kitchenware, barware, mixers, any kind of at-home entertaining, party planning companies, food trucks, prepared food companies, cafes, food bloggers, recipe creators, and so much more. So there's a lot in that kind of food and beverage hospitality industry arena that we're hoping to be able to help and support minority entrepreneurs this year.
And how can folks find out more information about it?
Sure. It'll be in the purpose section of our website, which is siascotchwhisky.com. And the program is in partnership with a wonderful partner called Hello Alice that offers grants to all kinds of businesses as well. They have a community of almost 500,000 small business owners, and they also have a lot of resources in terms of marketing, funding, financing, so all kinds of industry support there as well.
And then, you mentioned that you guys have been able to kind of grow this program, and now you're able to even mentor folks. What has been the response to the Spirit Fund and the impact it's had on folks?
Oh, it's been phenomenal. It's wild because I think the stage of business that we're targeting, these are small businesses, they're under $1 million in revenue. So a $10,000 grant, it could mean the difference from, keeping someone on payroll or making rent that month, or launching a new product that they've been having in the works. So it's instrumental in their businesses. And then, on the mentorship level, sometimes just having someone that you can, rely on, get some advice, some support, cheerleader, just a, introduction maker, you name it. And I've been really happy that, through the years, I've been able to grow resources in that way. I've personally been a mentor for 7 different accelerator programs. So I've been able to build up quite a good community of resources for people, and always happy to share that.
I was gonna ask. I mean, how rewarding is it for you to do that? But also just to, because you had people that helped you along the way, I'm sure, whether it was the Kickstarter fund or even just working with the master blenders, to kind of give back yourself and have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps me going on a daily basis, right? Like the days that are really tough, it gives me motivation to know that this is why I'm doing this, and that there are real people that are benefiting from the success of the brand. So it's really important for me to keep it growing.
And then, like I said, it's an amazing thing to see, and I appreciate this so much. And thank you for taking some time to tell your story and about SIA Scotch.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure.
And for those that are listening and watching, you can see the full interview of our tasting notes, extended interview on all of our social media pages, and you can find it at hopspirits.com as well.
Remember to check out Hops and Spirits on social media at Hop Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find Hops and Spirits on YouTube and at hopspirits.com.
Joining us here for our conversation is Crowe-Getty. Did I say that correct?
You got it. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm 2 for 2 because I always try these things beforehand and sometimes they don't go well, but I got this one right both times. Crowe-Getty, vocals, guitar for the band Lord Nelson. Kai, welcome in.
Thanks so much for having me this evening. Yeah.
I appreciate you hopping on. I've been listening to your new album, and we'll be talking about that here in a little bit, or the band's new album, I should say. It's a collaborative effort there. Mm-hmm. But you said you've been paying a little attention to the podcast, so probably my first question. I broke out some barrel bourbon, some batch 30 tonight. My little nice guy here. It's a little warmer today here in Kentucky. We got into like almost 50, so I figured I'd get some fall spices. But you got anything good for tonight?
Yeah, I broke out the just good old Woodford Reserve tonight. So
nice. That's
yeah.
I love Woodford. Love going over there and visiting them. They're not too far from where I live. Just cool. A beautiful location. So
yeah, I was out in Louisville maybe a few years back and did some of that, checking out things, and yeah, big fan of the products.
I was gonna say, so are you a whiskey guy, beer guy, all the above guy?
All things in moderation, including moderation. But no, I grew up. I've come to by traveling around and playing music. You kind of get a chance to experience anything you like, and it's neat to see all the great spirits and brews that are being made around the country these days, and that's been a fun part of it. And so I'm equal opportunity.
Yeah, I like that. I am the same way. I was a beer guy first, but have dabbled a little bit more into the whiskey world, and even now more so into the tequila world. Although that's more for my wife and her friends. For those that may not know Lord Nelson, or maybe this is their first time hearing some of the music and so forth, how would you describe your band's style? Because I don't know if I could pinpoint it exactly.
That's a good question, and it's one that I'm trying to get better at answering.
I always like answering that because I swear every artist is the same. It's like, well, it's not like a specific thing. It's a nice combination, mixed, nice mix.
Everybody thinks that they're like we're playing rock and roll and it's super unique and different, but no, we're I grew up listening to 70s rock and roll and singer-songwriters, and from Tom Petty to the band, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, those were the songs that grew up around in our house. And so I think throughout Lord Nelson's career, we've kind of shifted depending on who's been sort of a songwriting force in the band and helping to guide stuff. And over the years, that's changed a little bit here and there, but we've had consistency in a lot of it. And so I think, long answer, but I think it's just, we say rock and roll or Southern influence rock. Some people say Americana, which is a term I used to absolutely hate. But now I'm like, man, whatever it takes to help get people to the door, to help get them in, to see what they think. And so yeah, I think this record is our most sort of straight ahead rock with some sort of country tinge, some classic rock stuff. So yeah, it kind of covers those worlds, we think.
Well, I was gonna say, and you touched a little bit on it with some of your influences. I mean, is that what you kind of grew up on, or folks that you influenced you, or kind of maybe provided that goal, so to speak?
Yeah, and I think for me personally, my father's a songwriter, and so I grew up like he had a cup of tea in Nashville and decided he wanted to live in Virginia and become an artist out here, and so that's where I grew up, and so he was sort of a great example and role model of how to carve out a creative life, and also he would, he wasn't touring or playing in bands, but he always was playing guitar around the house. So this, he'd play his favorite songs from his era, and that's sort of what my brother and I grew up listening to, and so that was my foundation was really in songs. And I think there's lots of people who came up who are virtuosic or into the jam band world or what have you, but I think for me everything has to work around the song, and so I think I've, for better or worse, that's sort of been my beacon here through carving out a life in music.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, growing up around music, for me, I that was listening. It wasn't like I had anyone playing. I'm lucky if I can carry a tune and not run everyone off. I mean, what is that? Is just your family and your dad's love of music kind of what got you into music? Is that kind of how the ball got rolling, so to speak?
Yeah, he. I remember, this will date me, but the when they did the Beatles, it was like the anthology. It was like, gosh, I remember it came out on TV, or maybe I can't remember. Maybe it was like watching at a friend's house in VHS, or it was one of those things. But I remember seeing that and getting an idea of like, wow, so this is what's out there. There's rock and roll. Like I grew up in the woods, and music was always a communal thing, but I wasn't as aware of sort of the broader picture of it. And so, yeah, definitely. I think it was just those things were normalized. I grew up knowing the lyrics to many Bob Dylan and, Joni Mitchell songs and all and stuff along that era from my dad's youth. And so I think for me, he never pushed us to play or anything. It was just like, hey, if you want to, here you go. So my brother picked up drums, I picked up guitar, and I think because it just sort of was always around and was never pushed on us, it just fell naturally into our laps.
I was gonna say, I mean, I've asked this a few times to a few folks on the show. When did you kind of realize that this could be something, a career, or at least something that you were willing to go down that journey?
It's a good question. I think like the band started, and we were like a lot of bands playing your friend's backyard party. We had friends and band members lived in an old orchard house here, so we'd like have parties in their the apple shed, and it was just like touring bands would stop through, and it was like Lord of the Flies kind of situation with rock and roll, and so it did, the band kind of started like that. And I think for me, my mindset is if I'm going to do something, I'm going to try to do as much as I can, try to play the string out. So that's not always the goal for everyone playing music. So that sort of crystallized the direction of the band and what we're doing, and we've been playing around a bunch, I guess, and it was, people started showing up to shows, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And then we got to play sort of a big local festival, and that helped get our career going. And I was always just trying to think, okay, well, how do we get back here? What do we do next? What's the next move? And I always wanted to be on the road. I wanted to tour. I wanted to do all that. So I don't know. I can't put my finger on one exact moment per se, but I think it just was sort of the accumulation of all these things coming together, and it's sort of learning and navigating how to love the local bars and that kind of thing, and how do I get out of this? How do I get into a van? How do I get to play the next state over? How do you do these things? And just constantly curious and wanting to figure that out.
Well, I was going to say, and it seems to have continued to grow and grow, and now you guys have your, I believe, third album. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Your third album is out. It dropped last month in January. Transmission. Now, it's a little different thought process on this one, but what do you want folks to take away from this album? Because I really enjoyed it. Tooth and Nail is probably my favorite song on it.
Nice.
What do you want folks to take away from it compared to maybe your first two?
Yeah, I think like most bands, our first record was a collection of songs that we had accumulated between us. And the second record was written very quickly on the road, and we gave it more of a studio treatment. And this one, we did it kind of as low key as we could. We thought it would just be a live-ish record that we could put out, and people would, give them something to tide them over until we could get back in the studio and do this whole thing. And then COVID hit, and we like, okay, well, what do we do? So I think, as I've been talking about this record some, I've like, there's no highbrow. It's not a concept record. It's just a rock record. We wanted to just turn the guitars and drums up, and there's a lot of shouting vocals. It was, I remember very distinctly recording all these vocals like in a friend's farmhouse, all of us like standing around yelling, and like it was just rowdy and rambunctious, and it's I think our approach towards it being so low key and not stressing out about it. It helped to not have any nerves around recording. Like we took all the takes seriously, but we arranged, produced, recorded it ourselves, and kept it all in house. And as we were wrapping up, it's like, this is actually pretty cool. We it was nice to be able to. We feel like we got what we were aiming for on this one, which is just a loose rock record that we hope now will bring a little light in places and hopefully bring people together. And it's funny. I was talking to someone recently saying a lot of records coming out now are folks who are able to only record in their laundry room or their basement, and there's a lot of like kind of introspective, quieter things. And they're like, wow, this is really different. I was like, fortunately, we were able to sneak it in right before all this crap hit. But so I think it has felt weird to me a little bit coming back around to it from its initial recording to how it's to sort of where it's coming out in the world now. But yeah, we just can't wait to play songs live. That's always our goal when we make a record.
I was going to say, or it could be live from your kitchen table with a nice flowery background behind me.
I feel like we've all got a lot of that this year. Yeah.
So, now, I remember reading too about this album, and you kind of touched on it here. You kind of wanted that live feeling. Mm-hmm. What kind of made you go down that road? Because I know on the second one, you guys definitely had that more studio feel with it. Why kind of have that maybe cross between a live but professionally recorded still type album?
So our second and third records were recorded in the exact same space, which is always, for people who've listened to them, they're like, really? And so we were just very conscious of our production choices. We basically just threw a bunch of mics up. We're like, does this sound good? Great, let's go with that. And we intentionally did not put a lot of reverb on. It's mostly what's in the room. We didn't get, too crazy with overdubs, or like there's some loose stuff. As I've listened to it now, I was like, wow, okay. That we didn't put everything was on the click mostly, but it wasn't just to the finest comb detail. And so part of that, we wanted that energy to translate. We just thought we wanted a record that we could hand people after show and say, this is what you just heard. This is how we basically sound live with a little cleanups here and there. And we liked our first few records a lot. They weren't necessarily representative of what we were doing when we take a stage. And so that was a big goal for this one, is not make it too pretty around the corners, because our live show certainly isn't. And so yeah, we try to have fun with it, take any stress of recording out, which, since we weren't paying expensive producers by the hour in a big fancy place, it really made it super fun. So we did most of it in about 2 weekends with all of us. Like, the whole band was sleeping on my couch, my floor. Like, we just took over, and my wife would like make us food and keep the train rolling for us. And yeah, it was a really great period to kind of have that kind of band camp vibe where you're all working together and very locked in. And and there were songs we played a lot on the road, so we kind of knew exactly what we wanted to do with them going in the studio. So yeah, that's I
was gonna say, well, and I love that too, because I think one of the biggest compliments you can give an artist, especially nowadays, is that when you hear them live and you go, man, that is exactly how it sounded on the track. Because, like you said, sometimes things you go, wait a minute, that's not right. And to be able to go, no, this is what you heard, you're going to still love it no matter what, is got to be an awesome feeling. Now, I'm curious, because you said it was kind of like band camp. Are there any good stories like band camp, or you're not allowed to tell those?
At this period of the band,
there's one time
different type of band camp, I think. This one was fueled by, I think, like a lot of Coors Light and other things. But it was like we were coming off like a hard touring stretch, and so the good side was the songs were all really fresh. The band was really tight. But yeah, I'm trying to think of anything crazy. I mean,
and y'all get along. I mean, if you were staying in a house with everyone, you all were getting along too. That's a good sign.
Yeah, and I think part of it is we just came from the road, so we were like, you're driving around in a 40 350, so that we're kind of used to being in this compact space together, and that's for people who tour a lot. And I've talked to friends about this. Like, you're so used to being this unit at all the times, and so you just kind of get used to like not having personal space or time to yourself, which can drive you crazy. But in our case, we were like, came off the road. We're just in the studio, sleeping on my my floor and all over the couch and stuff. And I remember one of the nights we came back from the studio with a bunch of the mixes that we had made, and my wife was sleeping in the house. And so we went out, we like grabbed a bunch of beers and went out to the van in my driveway. And so we just sat in the van and listened to the mixes and drank some beers. And it was just like being on the road, and we just like sat out there for several hours. And the next day, my wife was like, "Did you guys really just like go pretend that you were on tour and sit in the van and listen to the songs you just recorded that day?" And, it does sound crazy. And, but in that moment, it was the right move. So
I was going to say, it's a great way to, just, enjoy your time together and, just make sure everything sounds good. It just brings back good memories, and it gives you a good story to share as well. Mm-hmm. And on this album too, I believe you guys had a couple other writers, and vocalists that not normally what you guys would have in terms of kind of the project. Henry and Calloway Jones contributed. How did that come about, and kind of maybe why did that come about?
Yeah, I think my ethos for running a band has always been the band, and that's been a benchmark for sort of all musical things. And the band of brothers, we at one point we had 2 sets of brothers in the band, and that's depending on life and employment and living situations, that's fluctuated. But yeah, so Henry was pretty much was in at early on in the band, kind of when we first started playing out and doing stuff, and so he'd been a big part of it, and he plays trombone and keyboards, and so the trombone was like, that was sort of our thing for a while. We were the country rock band that had a trombone, and so so he's always been part of it. His writing style is a little different than mine, and then his brother Calloway, who actually engineered the whole record and joined playing guitar, he has more of a sort of blues background, and he's a little more like soul R&B, and so I think that it's been neat over the years trying to bring all those worlds together and just creatively figure it out. And I think that on this record, we're really happy with particularly how all our song choices work together. And I think it's in a live show, like, so we do like two, at least 2 of us, maybe 3, we'll take turns singing different stuff. And I think it's one voice can kind of wear an audience out on a long show sometimes. And it's a nice change of pace for us. So we wanted to present the record like that. And Henry is still, a member of the family, but he's living across the country now for work. So yeah, we're really glad to have his track on here, which fit this group of songs. And there's and then Calloway he has a couple. So it was great to have just a real diversity of voice within our own little crew.
And then for you, when you're coming up with songs, writing songs, are you pulling from past experiences? Maybe a mix or an idea from those experiences. How does that process work for you?
Yeah, I'm not exactly a confessional or autobiographical songwriter, but a lot of these songs are drawn from very specific moments, like Tooth and Nail. Those are all real stories that weren't necessarily the same person, but they all fit together really well in that song. And on this record, we intentionally tried to. There's some darker stuff, but we wanted to have we didn't want to be taken too seriously, and so there's some lighter approaches on things, and there was sort of freedom to it. There's a song about this couple robbing a bank in there, which was based on an article I saw about 2 people who were driving around the hills not far from here on the lam, and cops were looking for them, and just allowing your mind to wander to those places. So there's a whole mix of things. And then we have a song called Putting in the Time on here, which is about just being a band on the road, but a lot of those are sayings or statements that people would say to us on the road, because there's nothing like playing a show and someone comes up, it's like, man, I tell you what y'all ought to do, man, you should be a Blink-182 cover band, like, you got it. And it's like, cool, thank you for the unsolicited advice. And that line is not in the song, but there's a lot of other stuff like that. So it's just sort of like, I think I always have sort of a note pad in my head of just trying to, like, you know, those little things that pop out, like, oh, that's gonna have to remember to use that one. And yeah.
Well, and then, you know, you mentioned you're in Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia. I mean, how big of an impact does kind of being in the South, you know, so to speak, there just have on you, or just in Virginia and Charlottesville in general?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because you play Georgia or Alabama or South Carolina, and they're like, oh, you guys are up north. And then you play in the north, and like, you guys are down south. So Virginia is a weird place, but I think that it's had a huge impact in that the little community that I grew up in here, it's rural. It's Charlottesville's about 30 minutes away, so that's the big city. But you have, university town where we could get up playing shows and kind of cut our teeth there. But it's country, it's agricultural, it's there's a little of everything, which makes it interesting. I think I definitely feel connected to that sense of place. That was a big important thing from the get-go.
Well, and then you talked about it earlier. You guys are kind of been known, and it's something that you wanted to be was a road band. You want to be out playing. What's it kind of been like to, unfortunately, kind of have more downtime than probably you would have hoped for, or anything like that? How has that been for y'all?
It's personally, it was sort of a handbrake that I didn't know I needed. In that we were going really, really strong and on the road before that, and I have a hard time saying no to anything, and so I just kept piling things on the plate. And so for as catastrophic as a year or two now it's been for many folks, and so it feels weird on a personal level to say. Initially, it was really helpful, and it helped me sort of realign things and learn how to work more responsibly and figure out what to say yes to, and that you don't just have to do everything. And I learned a lot about myself and about how I want to work in this business, in this world. And between that, initially we were all writing a ton because nobody knew how long it would last. So it's like, okay, like, let's keep rehearsing, let's keep practicing, let's be ready to go as soon as the gates are open. And then it became clear that's not going to happen right away. And then there was fits and starts, and we had tours canceled, and but putting out this album now, that's actually really played into it, because the last two records we put out, like, we were putting them out while we were on the road, and it was just sort of all the stuff that's important to release an album successfully always fell by the wayside by virtue of exhaustion and just spent on every count. So putting out this record now before we're actually able to really tour behind it, we will be soon, but I've learned a lot on how to do cool things like this, to talk to folks, to engage differently, and to sort of be a little more patient and just kind of letting go. I mean, so many shows canceled and things that are out of your control, and for someone was not used to that as much, even in this business, constant lessons. So that's been a good one to get to see. We have lots of stuff lined up. It's like, great, if this happens, I'm going to be excited. So never take a show for granted anymore.
Absolutely, and it sounds like everyone else, you learn some new skills. It may not have been baking bread or anything like that, but it was how to kind of find that zen and that refocus, and it's awesome too. Like I said, it's also neat to see this record, because like you said, you guys basically had this done 2 years ago, but now you're just putting it out. Was it weird to wait that long and then to not be able to tour or anything like that, or even try some of the songs, so to speak?
Yeah, and fortunately, we've been playing them live beforehand, so like they were sort of in our repertoire. But the frustrating thing really was, like, we were kind of not over them, but we were like, okay, we finished this, we're all ready to like start working on the next thing. And so for that sort of creativity to be kind of put in check, and it was weird to like intentionally not listen to the record for a while, because it was just really get you down and be like, okay, we're sitting on this thing. Who knows when we'll put it out? Who knows how we'll do it? And so putting it out now, it's expectations have been managed. We were like, okay, whatever happens, like, cool. We just need to get out of the system and, look forward to playing these live, and that was a big part of it. Like, we love playing these songs live. That was why they made the record. So that'll be really fun. We haven't got to do that much at all for a while. So getting out and getting turned up on this batch will be, well, I think we'll kick some fire back into all of us.
Well, and then, too, for someone that loves to be out on the road, what's kind of your favorite part about being on the road? Is it just that thrill of performing and being able to share your love of a song and music with other people that are singing it back or just jamming along with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a weird thing, and I was just out in Nashville for doing some recording for the last 4 nights, and I got home and I was like, man, I need to get my tour stamina back up. Like, I was just out staying in one place recording with some guys and like not getting in and out of cheap hotels and late at night, and I was like, man, I need to get back to that. But I love travel. And I think the thing I like the most is, like you said, it's those nights where you're in a town where you don't know anybody, and there's that exchange between an audience who's surprised. They're like, oh, this is cool, and you're like, wow, these folks are turning up for this, and just that engagement that you're both just so excited to have with each other, and the energy you can transfer, the connections you make, the random people you meet along the way. And I think that's really important. I think it's, especially not to get political, but I think that it's really easy for lots of us to be, especially this year when there's been a lot of isolation, to be in our own little worlds. And I think regardless of what you believe, going around, driving around, meeting people from all different backgrounds along the way is been really illuminating and helped to shed a lot of light and empathy towards all different types of folks. And I think that I have friends who, from all different sides of the political spectrum, and I think that that's the main thing that, not all kumbaya, but just if you meet someone after a show, your car breaks down in a weird town, your trailer pops a wheel, and good people show up to help you out, and you make friends, and you stay on someone's couch, and you just build these weird relationships along the way. And I've really missed that. So looking forward to meeting new friends.
Well, and I guess that segues perfect into this next question. What can folks expect from y'all this year? Obviously, you got a new album out, which I said, Transmission. I love it. Love Dragging Me Down, Tooth and Nail. Many of the songs on the record. What can obviously, hopefully, a tour? Anything else, or can you say officially a tour?
Yeah, we it's crazy. Like, things were really slow, and now it's I'm like, our agents just sending me like crazy amount of emails every day, and so things are happening. We're trying to get it all lined up well, but yeah, we're gonna be on the road for most of the spring and summer. And it's constantly like it's a shifting landscape for everyone, but it seems like things are opening up now. Everyone's excited to be doing stuff. We're kind of just going for it and seeing what happens, but we're just really excited to be able to play shows anywhere right now.
I was going to say, I'm guessing fingers are crossed, and if need be, you're going to go down to just find a random orchard house and just start partying. Is that
you
what
got it, man.
If it all comes down to it?
And it's like you go through all this stuff, and you're like, well, what's the deal? What's the ticket price? How are we doing? Well, like all these things that are really important to putting shows together, and like, but at the end of the day, like, we just want to play music, and we want to engage with people, and I think. I've definitely like lowered my expectations and standards, not in I don't think a negative way, but I've just been really enjoying that experience a lot more. And it's sort of nothing helps to erode the cynicism like taking something out from you. So even the shows that you'd be like, God, why are we playing here? This is a nightmare. So now it's the nice thing is finding ways to make that positive in some way instead of griping about it and all that. So yeah, I'm just really curious to see what it's like out there, how people are responding. I think that'll be really interesting how it all shakes out. But
well, and if you want to find out more about the band, LordNelsonBand.com, you can find them on all the social media. Also check out Transmission; it's out now. Like I said, I love Tooth and Nail. It's a clever song. Kind of not exactly what you're expecting. If you think about how the lyrics start out, like I said, I love that one. Drag Me Down is another great one. Mm-hmm. Check it out on all the players out there as well. And Kai, I appreciate it. This has been a blast, and thanks for sharing a drink with me and sharing your story.
Hey, cheers, man. Thanks so much for having me. And this is, like I was saying, meeting strangers in any way on the internet or in person. It's always it's great to have music bringing that together, and hopefully we'll cross paths down the way. But thanks for your time and shining a light on this.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
All right, cheers.